Today, I'd like to reflect on consecrated life in the life and mission of the church. In the earliest centuries of the church's existence, certain people felt called to live the gospel in a profoundly radical way. So we think of those who went off to the desert in places like Egypt or later in Europe to live a life of solitude and prayer and asceticism. And gradually, people were drawn to those spiritual figures. I'm thinking of St. Anthony of the Desert or St. Benedict or even St. Augustine, who articulated and wrote a rule of life for people who we came to see as consecrated persons in the life of the church to live the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience in imitation of the poor, chaste, and obedient Christ. So the church is always needed and it has always flourished best when consecrated life flourishes. So we think of the history of the Catholic Church here in the United States. It would be inconceivable to imagine the growth of the church without consecrated persons. So we think of all the religious orders, all the sisters, all the brothers, all the religious priests who built the hospitals, who built the school system, who served the needs of the poor and continue to do so in such beautiful ways. Today, especially in female consecrated life, we see a resurgence. I recently read an article online about how more and more millennial young women are entering religious orders, wanting to give themselves to Christ and to the mission of the church in a radical consecrated fashion. So it gives me a moment just to offer praise and gratitude to all of the consecrated persons in our diocese and to thank the Lord for their vocation and for their generosity. And to give a shout out to all the young people of our diocese, especially our young women, to consider a life of consecrated devotion, to live the evangelical counsels, to be a person particularly given to Christ, and to point people to the things that ultimately matter, eternal life, life with God, the kingdom of heaven. So religious life is of absolute essence to the life of the church. And as we contemplate vocation, we just pray for a new springtime, a new harvest of vocations to the religious life as we call out young people to answer that radical call of Christ to live the good life of the gospel.